How are you on the Joyful Mate podcast?
Anthony, I'm great, mate. Thanks for having me on your podcast. It's such a treat. I'm wrapped. I'm really well, mate. Everything's been good for me, and life's moving fast. I'd like to slow it down sometimes, but I've got no complaints. Life's great.
Yeah, you certainly you take on a lot, and you're an inspiration to me. I must say, I was sharing my backstory on a podcast the other day, and it was about exiting the matrix, and for me, it was leaving Orica, and you were the catalyst for me to leave corporate and follow my heart. So,
Really?
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
that's very kind of you to say that, mate. I didn't realise that was the case. I mean, I knew that when I got to know you when I first met you, you were in the thick of it. You were traveling, working hard, long hours, and it was stressful for you. I recall that, and I couldn't be happier that you changed as a result of maybe something I said. So, good on you. That's awesome. But you got to action it. You know what I mean? So people can say stuff, but if you don't action it, it doesn't really do anything. So, yeah, good on you. Thanks.
Hey, you're welcome. You're welcome. I think it was that connection, that authentic connection that you had towards your profession. Like you were just loving what you do, and I think that really inspired a spark in me. And then watching a couple of your Power of Food talks, and seeing you engage the audience and talk about your story, and it just ignited that spark in me and to take action. Actually, I think you inspired me so much to just to go and study and learn more about health, and then go and help others. So I really appreciate your inspiration and helping me on my journey, and helping me. The other inspiration you've inspired me to do was podcasting. So
And here we are together, both with the
yes,
same haircut and on
correct,
the podcast. How good is
absolutely.
that? Oh, I love it. Thanks, mate. That's really kind of you, and I appreciate that. And it's I'm only doing what I do because I was inspired by people too. So like people, it's a matter of opportunities, and when opportunities present, I think because I've always been a yes guy. People say to me, Damo, can you? And I've already said yes. And then I ask, what is it that I'm doing? You know? So I like to say yes to lots of different things. And then every now and then you land on your feet. So I've had a couple of those opportunities, which I'm very grateful for.
Yeah, wow. It's yeah, because I when I was in New Zealand and first met you, you were doing that Biggest Loser competition over there.
The
Yeah,
Downsize Me show.
yeah, that's it. That's it. That's it.
Downsize Me.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that was an amazing show. Essentially, I got a phone call, and it was an accidental phone call. The person that they were looking for was the naturopath that I used to employ, and she'd broken up with her boyfriend and then moved back to Melbourne. She'd left Auckland, and they were looking for a female nutritionist, naturopath. And I said, well, I can help. I can do it. They said, well, do you know how to write diet plans? I said, yeah. That's what I do. The naturopath you're looking for used to work for me, and she used my weight loss program. And so, as a result of that, I ended up being the presenter of that TV show. Just because, that's the right time, right place, and managed to get that phone call, but also managed to say yes, which was really important.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So, really keen to have or to get your insights on happiness, like in terms of what it is for you.
Yeah, all right. I thought there was going to be more to that question. That's why there was a little pause
Oh
there.
well, there can
But
be.
happiness is really important, in every part of my life, I kind of seek it. Sometimes happiness comes really easily, and then sometimes you've got to work at it. But that doesn't mean that when happiness isn't there, I'm depressed. Sometimes happiness isn't there, and I can be sad. Um, but then I work towards the creation of happiness, through the pursuit of joy. So I do things that make me feel joy. So I play golf, that makes me feel joy. But sometimes I come off the golf course and I'm not happy. And then sometimes I'll go to work and I'll have, because I love the work that I do. Like I love being a chiropractor, love it. And so I go to work to experience joy, and 99 times out of 100, I leave work and I'm happy. So because I'm doing things that bring me joy, that makes me happy. And that's really good. But it does, there's also times in my life where I do feel sad. But I never really feel depressed, which I'm really grateful for, because that mental health challenge that some people do feel, I think it would be challenging. Fortunately, because I find it easy enough to do things that bring me joy. I find happiness pretty easily, which is good. So I love my family. I like to spend time with the people I spend time with. If I get an invitation to go and have a pizza with some mates, I'll try and say yes to that as fast as I can. When I've got an opportunity to go fishing or play golf or go on a holiday or whatever, my first answer is yes. And then it's often I'll say, oh, hang on a second, just let me check. So I've already confirmed, and then I'm checking to see if it'll actually work. As opposed to a lot of people say, no, I can't make it, or I can't do it, and then try to flip it to try and go, oh, can I come now? Just a different mindset.
Yeah, so I was just wondering whether it's the curiosity in you that, you're very open to opportunities, and you'll, as you said, you found plenty of opportunities through just saying yes and taking on new challenges, new things. Have you found or discovered what brings you joy through curiosity and being open?
Maybe could be FOMO, Anthony. Like it could be, it could just be I don't want to be that guy that everyone says you should have been there. Like I'd rather be there and then saying to other people you should have been there. But it's kind of like sometimes you've got to do stuff that's really outside your comfort zone. Like I never would have dreamed of taking people on holidays or on a expedition to Greece. Apart from what I knew about Greece, I didn't know much about it. And then all of a sudden I'm running tours and events to Greece and to Sardinia in Italy, helping people understand the concepts of blue zones and aging well and how they see happiness and where they derive joy and all that sort of stuff. And um, I think being bold and stepping out and doing things that are different, that most people wouldn't do, that creates opportunity. And it's the opportunities that I think that also help me stay happy um, and I don't know if that's to do with curiosity. Often I go in there with a fair bit of trepidation and fear. Um, I'm probably um, I'm more fearful these days that something won't work than courageous and bullish, like I was when I was in my 30s or 20s. Now I'm in my 50s. I'm probably a little bit more cautious, but I still like to say yes and do things. So I think that's a motto, and probably also a mindset that I carry that I like to move in that sort of direction. I like to move towards the positivity as opposed to away from the negativity.
So it's that pursuit. Would you say it's that wanting to grow as a person? Like, so it's not really curiosity, but it's, hey, I like a challenge. It, really motivates me to, take it on and to, yeah. So do you think it's more the personal growth aspect that's led you down to, pursuing these opportunities and and not being fearful of the fear? Like, a lot of people with the fear will say no and run away, whereas
Yeah.
you lean into the fear.
Yeah, I do lean into the fear. I do, because I think it'll be. There are some people I'm sure out there. Let's look at the Elon Musks of the world. Those kind of people. They just do stuff, and even if you've got a little bit of fear, it really doesn't really register. Um, but when you've got fear around starting a new project or doing something, fear of rejection or whatever it is, and I have that. Like when I go to start to do something, I don't let that stop me from doing it. It's very, maybe I might procrastinate for a little bit, but generally I will get there because I'm driven to grow, like you said. I'm driven to grow and to enhance my experience. And I think I like to do that too from a leadership perspective to, kind of show my son, Jack, what happens if you do take a leap, if you do take safe risks. You know what I mean? Like if you're really bold and you step out and you do things that most other people wouldn't do, it provides you with opportunity. And I've wanted to show Jack that. And I don't even know whether or not that was intentional, but it certainly, when you reflect on it, that's exactly what I've been doing.
And look where Jack is today in terms of his boldness. Like,
Yeah.
it's, yeah, traveling the
Well,
world. Yeah.
I think he finished uni. Let's say he finishes uni at 21. At 21, he moved to Brisbane for his first job. Then, at 22, he's moving to Singapore. So he's 24 now and about to move to Geneva. And there's not a lot of kids at that age that'll be that bold. I know some kids at that age that are bold enough to do that sort of stuff, and they're presented with those sorts of opportunities. Not everyone's given those opportunities either. So if you've got those opportunities, I think it behooves you to make the most of that, to really grab it and go for it. Because if you pass up those opportunities, they may never come your way again.
And maybe that's what I picked up on in you, that it gave me the boldness and the courage
Mm.
to leave like a safe haven in corporate and to go out and do my own thing and follow the heart. And so maybe that's what and that's what I'm thinking now. It was probably your courage and your boldness that inspired me in an area that I'm inspired in. So that's what I'm thinking now. That it
That's
was,
amazing. Do you
yeah.
reckon you're happier as a result of that?
Oh, a million times, like totally fulfilled. As you said, you go to work and you look forward to going to work, and 99 times out of 100, you come home from work and you feel great, fulfilled, and joyful and happy. And that's the same with me. Like I can't wait for the morning to begin. Like I just can't wait for a new day,
Yeah.
just to rip in.
That's just the best, mate. I love that. That's a good little story, and it's good to know because I don't, I think when sometimes people make decisions and there's a little bit of regret, a bit of remorse, a bit of buyer's remorse. But it's nice to hear that you're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I think it was your total alignment to what you're doing, and I think it's that boldness is really what stood out to me based on what you shared. And so, like, how do you like? Because it's a real interesting point around like so you growing, chasing. Well, you don't chase it. It's sort of you just say yes to things, right? They come to you, and you make the bold, courageous decision. How do you like then once you say yes, the butterflies kick in, and then some people would be looking for a way out. How do you continue to lean into that space so that you actually execute it? And that's like, because I can imagine it's the execution and you feel the growth and you think, wow, I didn't think I could do that, but I've done that. I've taken a group of people to Sardinia and we've toured, and I've taken on this massive thing that I had no idea I could do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think you got to back yourself. I think it's got to be, I think you've also got to be okay to fail. Um, and look at the muesli companies that I ran. One of them was a flop, total flop. It was rising success fast, and then because of the partnership that we had, and that dissolving, that became a flop. And then the next one was hugely successful, but untenable. Like I couldn't keep it going because it needed more of my time, and I wanted to. That wasn't necessarily bringing me joy, so I moved away from that with the pursuit of joy in my practice, seeing patients. And maybe, who knows, like maybe running a muesli company, it might have delivered greater wealth or financial opportunity, but I don't think it gave me better life opportunities. In fact, it made me work a lot longer and a lot harder, um, and from an hourly rate perspective, for a lot less. You know what I mean? So, whereas these days, I don't have that equation. I work what I would say an appropriate amount of time with my patients. I then have administration time, and I work an appropriate amount of time on that. And then I have an appropriate amount of time. Maybe it's a little bit too much time. I play golf, and maybe I spend a bit too much time on that, and I could probably focus more on my career and work. But that would come at the expense, I think, of like my overall fitness and health and mental health and happiness and all that, and the relationships that I formed as a result of playing golf, um, bring me a lot of joy as well. So there's so much that comes from making those decisions. Um, yeah, I'm pretty happy with the balance I've got.
Yeah, that sounds like it. It sounds like you got the perfect blend. You're in that
Yeah. Well,
harmonious.
Amber always says, I'm coming back as you. She always says, when I die, if I've got to come back to the planet, I'm coming back as you.
Ah,
Like, so
wow.
she always, reckons I've got it pretty good. She's in corporate. She really enjoys her work, like really enjoys it, and loves the role that she plays in whichever organization that she's in. She's, in people and culture, and she's a superstar at it. So she loves that, but she always says that my life's easier, and I agree. I agree with that. for sure.
But the other thing that comes to me is like, you know, people that can, the people. I don't think you do people pleasing. Or maybe there is an element of people pleasing, but you say yes to everything. Like, so you say probably yes more times than no, and like in corporate, they're saying, well, you got to put up boundaries and yes, and put a fence in to protect your happiness. Whereas you're like, this is a really interesting conversation because you've found it the other way to what the grain is or the norm is, right? It's like, because the thing about saying yes all the time, you can overwhelm yourself, overstress yourself, and then obviously when you're overstressed, you're not happy because you're just too
True.
over. Yeah, yeah,
But for me, if I wasn't being provided with opportunities, that would create more anxiety and overwhelm for me. So every time I say no, I close the door. So I'd rather keep that door open and then, try to find out what's behind that door. What's possible, rather than just closing that door and then having that decision made where I've now cut off any opportunity that was ever going to present because I said no. The other day I said no to something. And it was the hardest thing I've done in such a long time because I very rarely say no. It was an opportunity to work with a technology that could help AFL clubs and stuff. And I was like, no, that's not for me. But now I'm looking at it from the outside going, oh, gee, that would have been fun. Oh, that could have been really great. Imagine if I was part of that. Oh, now I've got all this FOMO. But I know, and I knew at the time, like I just mentally didn't have the space for it. And I've got to be okay with that decision. But I very rarely say no to opportunities, particularly if it's, of a, yeah, you know what? It's really only the only business opportunities that I say no to, unfortunately, and this might upset a few people, but I only say no to the opportunities that are kind of like multi-level marketing opportunities. And I get knocked on the door for those sorts of things all the time. So that's the only time I say no, but that's really just a values thing. I just that sort of business doesn't float my boat. That's all.
yeah.
Mm.
Wow.
It does for some people, like clearly, like otherwise, people wouldn't be successful doing it. But it's not for me.
Is there anything that you've come, like, I guess, during your 50 years or 50 plus years on Earth, is there things that have once been, you thought brought happiness that you know now through experience that, no, that's no longer the case? Is there
Yeah,
anything that comes to mind?
yeah, alcohol.
Uh,
Like it's the
yeah.
funniest thing. Like I enjoy a drink with my mates and family and that sort of stuff, but getting annihilated, it used to be so much fun. But then I look at it, and then in the wash up, you've made terrible mistakes, or you've said stupid things, or you've done dumb things, and then that steals happiness. I reckon that. And then the other thing is poor discipline around finance. So spending more than you earn. I think that those sorts of things that people would talk about openly. If you don't save, then you'll find yourself, not struggling, but you'll find yourself less comfortable as a result of not saving. If you drink alcohol, there's not a lot of benefit that comes from overconsumption. Very little benefit that comes from overconsumption. There is benefit derived from a little bit, but there's no benefit from overconsumption. So they're probably the two things: spending too much and drinking alcohol. They'll be the things that I would say, um, that I've learnt to probably be careful of.
And through your studies of the Blue Zone people, the ones that live, the centenarians,
Yeah.
uh, what have you found in terms of what brings them joy, happiness? Like, what have you learned through this study?
That's a great question. Um, in Ikaria and Sardinia, which are the two European blue zones, what's very easy to identify is their sense of purpose and their community engagement, um, as probably the two key things that bring happiness and joy. So they're not very materialistic. They're not putting 100 centimeter televisions on the wall. They're not driving electric cars and getting the best house in the best neighborhood. That's not their pursuit. Their pursuit is that of happiness, and contentment, and there's the satisfaction with their life. So if they're able to put some dolmades and some goat and a little bit of salad on the table, and they're in Greece, then they're really happy. if they've got their family and friends around. If they're in Sardinia and they're getting a little bit of cavolo and maybe a little bit of salad and maybe possibly some fish that they've been able to get access to with some wine, they're really happy, as long as they've got their friends and family around. So I think when you look at that lifestyle, if you're seeking secrets to attaining happiness through the pursuit of joy, you'd look to the centenarians in the blue zones in Europe to see how simple it is. They're not sitting at home in a rocking chair suffering from loneliness. They're definitely not doing that. And in fact, they identify that if you're lonely, you're actually really close to the end of days. Loneliness is a really difficult thing to have to deal with, and they probably are the most successful cultures in avoiding loneliness by maintaining engagement in the community, and their family's always around. So I think they do it really well.
Yeah, wow. And you look at today's world where we're supposedly super connected, through technology and
Yeah,
social
hyper
media.
connected.
Yeah, yeah. But yet, the young people report more isolation and loneliness than, historically ever before. Like it's on the rise. It's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? But again, that's a lot of immediate gratification too. People are
Mm.
looking for someone else to pump up their tires, someone else to feed back to them that they're doing a good job. And the continual reinforcement and the likes, they look for the love heart, emoji or the thumbs up emojis. Like they're looking for that sort of stuff in their life, external validation. Um, and that's most probably because they haven't set sail in the right direction and their rudder's slightly off. So they're looking for someone else to pull them into line.
Yeah, so they don't have that purpose that you spoke about before.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think, if you get drawn down the rabbit hole of social media and you just doom scrolling for hours and hours and hours on end, then I would have to say it's probably a rudderless kind of um, behavior. Like it's something that, but in saying that, I'm not being judgmental. All I'm saying in that space is that if that's what you're doing and you're spending hours, like 4 or 5 or 6 hours stuck in doom scroll and just reading stuff that's no doubt incredibly funny, and I love looking at some of the funny stuff on Instagram. But if you're doing hours and hours and hours of it, um, it'd be it's a poor expectation to think that things are going to be better than what they are at the moment if you continue to go down that rabbit hole of social media.
Very true. And I just wanted to thank you for your amazing insights. You've actually opened up some new pathways for me to go down because I was sort of coming to a bit of a conclusion around that people pleasing and or saying yes all the time that's doesn't bring fulfillment. But I've now spoken to someone where they say that's it, but where they discovered their joy. So
It does. Like I'll be checking and adjusting somebody. They come into my practice, start with their lumbar spine, move through the thoracic spine, finish off with their neck, and at the end of it, they say, "Would you mind checking my ankles and my feet?" And I'm like, "Absolutely. Let me get down there," and off I go, and I'm down there. Or would you mind looking at my elbows and my wrists and my fingers? Like, absolutely, I'm down there. Like I'm not going to say no. Like somebody's requested that I can help them feel better. Bang! I'm immediately going to go and help them to feel better. So it's I think that's a great thing to be able to do, to be a people pleaser. It's not a bad thing. The alternative is to piss a lot of people off. That doesn't make you feel good.
And Damien, there's no doubt that you've ignited a spark in others and inspired them through this conversation, and certainly they might want or they may be thinking what Amber thinks all the time in terms of when she returns to this her next world, she wants to be Damien. So how can the listeners and viewers best connect with you?
Thanks, Anthony. I've also got a podcast that's 100 Not Out. So if you want to listen to some of the stuff that I'm up to, you could go to 100 Not Out. That's 100 Not Out. And then if you put a .com at the end of that, that's our website. So you can find out information about the trips that we run. They're really exciting. They're awesome trips. And then if you live in Victoria and you want to come and see me, you can either search Damian Kristof chiropractor, or you could go to vidalifestyles.com. So VIDA lifestyles.com. And then we can meet and I can say yes to you too. So, I'd love to be able to help you out if I can.
Fantastic. And to the listeners, I'll include those links in the show notes. So please just go straight to the show notes and you can click on those links and find Damian. And once again, Damian, really thank you so much for putting aside your valuable time and saying yes to me.
It's my pleasure. Thanks, Anthony. Thanks so
Thank,
much.
thank you. Thanks, mate.
Well done.